We copy winners without realizing we're learning from the exceptions, not the rules. That's survivorship bias in a nutshell. We look at who made it, who's on the cover of Forbes, who's the Instagram success story, and we forget the thousands who did the same thing and failed silently. In this episode, I want to challenge the way you look at success stories because until you learn to study not only the visible survivors, but also the invisible failures, you'll keep copying strategies that don't actually improve your odds. Welcome back to Spark and Hustle, Unleashing Success in Business, Life, and Beyond. I'm your host, Puneet Kaur. Today, we're diving deep into survivorship bias. This is one of those concepts that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. It explains why so much advice online feels hollow, why copying billionaires rarely works, and why some of the world's best decisions come from people who study what didn't make it, not what did. If you're building a career, starting a business, or just making life decisions, survivorship bias will either trap you or free you. Let's start with the classic story. During World War II, the military studied planes returning from battle. They noticed bullet holes clustered in the wings and tail. So the first instinct was reinforce those areas. But statistician Abraham Wald flipped the script. He said, reinforce the spots with no bullet holes because the planes hit there never came back. The data was biased. It only included survivors. This is the perfect metaphor for life. We study only people who made it back, the survivors, the winners, the ones on stage, on magazine covers, in TED Talks. We forget about the silent failures, the countless who tried it, didn't make it. Now, this bias, it's basically mistaking visible success for the whole truth. Psychologists call it the selection bias. You're selecting your data set only from what you can see. But in reality, the truth includes both seen and the unseen, both the survivors and the ones that lost. When you only look at survivors, you miscalculate odds, risks, and strategies. In other words, you copy the lucky few while ignoring the unlucky many. Entrepreneurship is where survivor bias shows up the loudest. Every year, thousands of startups launch, only a tiny fraction become unicorns. And if you only study the unicorns, i.e., Amazon, Tesla, Uber, you might think their success formula is repeatable. Move fast and break things. Hustle 100 hours a week. Raise venture capital. But here's the problem. Thousands of other founders did those exact things and failed. You don't hear their stories because failure is invisible. Nobody writes Medium posts about their failed startup after they've burned out and broke. This creates a distorted view. You think the strategy works because you only see survivors. But what if survivors won despite those strategies, not because of them? Take venture capital. For every founder who raised millions and scaled, hundreds raised money, grew too fast, and collapsed. Take hustle culture. For every founder who brags about sleeping under their desk, hundreds worked 100-hour weeks and destroyed their health with nothing to show for it. Now, this isn't just in business. It shows up in relationships and life decisions. Think about marriage advice. People in long-term marriages often give advice like never go to bed angry or always compromise. But here's the catch. Those are great stories. What about millions of marriages that ended in divorce? Maybe those couples also tried not going to bed angry. Maybe they compromised too much, but we don't hear their stories. When you only hear the same stories, you think the advice is universal, but it's not. It's filtered through those people who succeeded. Now, let's think about career advice. Someone says, I dropped out of college, built a billion-dollar company. Yes, but what about thousands who dropped out and never made it? Now, This bias makes us look at risky paths and deem them safe. And safe paths look boring. But in reality, the invisible failures hold the real lessons. Now, the framework we're going to use going forward is ask who's missing. When you study success stories, ask who tried this and failed. What's their story? Study failures as data. For every business book, read a post-mortem of a failed startup. For every happy marriage story, read about divorces. Separate process from the outcome. Did this person succeed because of their strategy or in spite of it? Sometimes success comes from timing, luck, or privilege, not just effort. Think in probabilities, not anecdotes. Just because something worked for one person doesn't mean it'll work for you. Play the odds, not the exceptions. Stop idolizing exceptions and start learning the whole picture. You stop copying billionaires and start studying the patterns. Here's some practical ways. When you're seeking advice, don't just ask the winners. Ask people who fail too. Their insights are often sharper. When making big decisions, write down just not the best case scenario, but also the failure cases. Ask, what did others do wrong? When consuming media, remember that success stories are curated. They're designed to inspire, not to reflect probabilities. The real power move is studying that failure, the forgotten, the ones who didn't survive. So, wisdom lives in the stories you don't see. And just like every episode, we're going to talk about a book. And this one is a very, very famous one. Most of you might have come across pieces from it, if not the book itself. And we also had it as a book recommendations in a couple of the previous episodes because it's just that good and it's that relevant. One is, it's very analytical, it's logical, it's intuitive. So without much ado, the book's name is Thinking Fast and Slow. It's by Daniel Kahneman. I think I always butcher his last name. It's a classic book. It explores two modes of thinking. System one, which is fast, intuitive, emotional. And there's another system, which is slow, analytical, logical. So survivorship bias ties directly to system one. We quickly assume winners have the formula without slowing down to analyze unseen data. The book teaches us to pause, challenge our assumptions, and think statistically rather than emotionally. This is exactly how we avoid this bias, which is don't trust the first story. Look deeper. Here are two quotes from the book for you to ponder. First one is, the correct lesson to learn from surprises is that the world is surprising. Second is, nothing in life is as important as you think it is while you're thinking about it. In this episode, we learned about how to look beyond the winners. And thank you for tuning in to Spark and Hustle. Share this episode with someone who idolizes winners but never studies failures. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay bold, stay soft, and keep going.